Randall Thompson wiped the sweat from his forehead as he emerged from underneath Mrs. Peterson's sink. Another day, another clogged drain. The musty smell of old pipes and the faint drip of water had become as familiar to him as his own reflection in the countless bathroom mirrors he'd faced over his decade-long career as New Jersey's most reliable plumber. "All fixed, Mrs. Peterson. Just try to keep the cat hair from going down there, okay?" He gathered his tools, mentally calculating the remaining jobs for the day. 2 more routine calls in Hoboken, then he could head home to his empty apartment and leftover pizza. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. Great, probably another emergency call about a backed-up toilet. He almost let it go to voicemail, but in this economy, every call counted. "Thompson Plumbing Services, this is Randall." "Hello." The voice that came through his phone made him freeze. It was melodic, with an accent he'd never heard before. Like wind chimes made of crystal, each word flowing into the next with an almost musical quality. "I have an urgent situation with my pipes that needs your immediate attention." Something about the way she said pipes made his neck warm. Her voice carried an undertone that reminded him of late-night calls from ex-girlfriends, not service requests. What seems to be the problem, ma'am?" "They need servicing." She drew out the word servicing, like she was savoring it. "Very thorough servicing. Your website profile mentions you're available for emergency calls. Your reviews are quite impressive." Randall tugged at his collar, suddenly aware of how his uniform clung to him in the late afternoon heat. "Yeah, I can head over now. What's the address?" She gave him directions to Cherry Hill, one of the newer developments where tech millionaires were building their modernist monstrosities. As he climbed into his van, the conversation replayed in his mind. The way she'd spoken, almost like, "Get your mind out of the gutter, Thompson," he muttered, punching the address into his GPS. "It's just another job." The drive took him through familiar neighborhoods that gradually gave way to increasingly elaborate homes. But nothing prepared him for his destination. The house looked like it had been designed by someone who'd watched too many episodes of the Jetsons while high. Sleek white walls curved up into impossible angles, with windows that seemed to shimmer with an iridescent gleam. The lawn was perfect, too perfect, like it had been painted on. His work boots felt out of place on the pristine walkway that seemed to glow faintly under his feet. Before he could ring the doorbell, was there even a doorbell? The door slid open with a soft whoosh that reminded him of Star Trek. Randall's tool belt slipped from nerveless fingers, clattering on the glowing path. The woman in the doorway defied everything he knew about human anatomy. She was tall, at least 6 feet, with curves that seemed to flow like water. But what stopped his heart wasn't her perfect figure, or the way her simple white dress hugged it. It was her skin, a smooth, luminescent green that seemed to pulse with its own inner light. Her eyes were large, almost cat-like, with pupils that shimmered like opals in sunlight. Her hair floated around her head like it was underwater, deep strands that seemed to move of their own accord. "You must be the plumber," she said in that same musical voice from the phone. "I'm Naira. Please come in." She gestured with long, elegant fingers that ended in slightly pointed tips. Randall's mouth worked silently for a moment before he managed, "You're, not from around here?" She smiled, revealing teeth that were just a touch too white, too perfect. "I'm part of the Centauri exchange program. First wave of immigrants. I've only been on Earth a week." She gestured inside again. "The pipes?" "Right, the pipes. He was here to do a job. Alien or not, a clog was a clog." He gathered his scattered tools and followed her inside, trying not to stare at the way she seemed to glide rather than walk. The interior of the house made the outside look positively mundane. The walls shifted colors subtly, like the inside of a soap bubble. Furniture that looked like it had been grown rather than built dotted the space. What he assumed was a television floated in midair, displaying what appeared to be stock market quotes in a script he couldn't read. "So," he cleared his throat, gripping his tool belt like a lifeline, "where's the problem?" Naira turned to face him, and something in her opalescent eyes made his pulse quicken. "The bathroom, this way." She led him down a hallway that seemed to bend slightly as they walked, like a fun house mirror made architectural. The bathroom, when they reached it, was both familiar and alien. He recognized the basic shapes, sink, toilet, shower, but everything seemed slightly off. The sink was carved from what looked like a single piece of crystal. The shower had no visible controls, just a seamless glass enclosure that hummed faintly. I'm having issues with proper flow, Naira said, standing closer than strictly necessary. Her scent reminded him of ozone before a storm, electric and wild. Everything seems tight, restricted. Her hand brushed his arm, sending a jolt through him like static electricity. Randall forced himself to focus on the sink, crouching down to examine the pipes underneath. They were like no plumbing he'd ever seen. Sleek, almost organic-looking conduits that pulsed faintly with a blue light. These aren't exactly standard issue, he managed, pulling out his flashlight. Mind if I take a closer look? Please do, Nira purred. Be as thorough as you need to be. For the next 20 minutes, Randall examined every inch of the alien plumbing system. To his growing confusion, he couldn't find anything wrong. The pipes were pristine, the flow perfect, the pressure ideal. Every test he ran showed optimal performance. I hate to tell you this, he said finally, standing up, but I can't find any problems. Everything seems to be working perfectly. Naira's expression shifted to something between amusement and disappointment. Are you sure? Perhaps you need to probe deeper? Her choice of words made him fumble his wrench. Ma'am, Naira, I'm a professional. If there was an issue, I'd find it. But your system is working exactly as it should. She stepped closer, and suddenly the bathroom felt very small. And what if I told you the pipes weren't the real reason I called you here? Randall backed up until he hit the crystalline sink. What do you mean? Nara's eyes seemed to glow brighter. On my world, when someone experiences certain needs, it's customary to call upon a skilled professional. Her fingers traced patterns in the air that left faint luminescent trails. Someone strong, capable, with experience handling. Delicate equipment. The temperature in the room seemed to rise several degrees. Listen, I think there's been a misunderstanding. Has there? She moved closer still, her otherworldly perfume making his head spin. I studied Earth's customs carefully before making my choice. Your profile showed everything I was looking for. Strong hands, excellent reviews, available for emergency situations. Her eyes dropped to his tool belt. And such an impressive collection of instruments. Randall swallowed hard. Those are for plumbing. Are they? Her laugh was like wind chimes in a breeze. On my world, we believe that skill with tools indicates other talents. She reached out and ran a finger along his jawline, leaving a trail of tingling sensation. And you, Randall Thompson, have very talented hands. He caught her wrist gently, trying to ignore how her skin felt like silk charged with electricity. Ma'am, Naira, I'm flattered, but I'm just here to fix pipes. Real pipes. The kind that carry water. But they don't need fixing, she pointed out, stepping even closer. The motion caused her hair to brush against his cheek, each strand sending little sparks of sensation through his skin. And yet here you are, exactly where you're meant to be. This isn't. We don't. He struggled to form coherent thoughts as her scent enveloped him. On Earth, we have different customs for this sort of thing. Do tell, she purred, her free hand coming to rest on his chest. I'm very interested in Earth customs. Perhaps you could demonstrate? The rational part of Randall's brain screamed at him to leave, to get back in his van and pretend this never happened. But another part, a part that was growing stronger by the second, couldn't help but be intrigued. She was beautiful in an alien way that defied description, and there was something about her directness that was oddly refreshing. Usually, he managed, we start with dinner, getting to know each other. Dating. Dating? Her head tilted at an angle that reminded him she wasn't human. Ah, yes, your courtship rituals. But you see, I'm in what my people call the quickening, a time when certain needs become rather urgent. Her fingers began tracing patterns on his chest. And your profile indicated you handle urgent situations very well. My profile on the plumbing website. No job too big or small. Available 24/7 for emergencies. Satisfaction guaranteed. Each quote was accompanied by a movement that brought her closer. Very promising credentials. Randall tried to focus on breathing normally. Those are about plumbing services. Are they? She smiled, and for a moment her teeth seemed to shimmer like opals. Then perhaps you should explain the difference. Over dinner, as per your customs? He blinked, thrown by the sudden shift. Dinner? Yes. You mentioned it was customary. Her hand moved from his chest to adjust her dress, which somehow made the motion even more distracting. I have prepared sustenance in anticipation of your arrival. Unless, her eyes locked with his, pupils swirling with colors he couldn't name. You'd prefer to skip directly to more urgent matters? The logical part of Randall's mind pointed out all the reasons this was a bad idea. She was an alien. He was on a job. This had to violate some kind of interstellar protocol. But another part of him, the part that was tired of fixing leaky faucets and unclogging drains, the part that had always dreamed of something more exciting than New Jersey plumbing, was already wondering what alien food might taste like. Dinner, he said firmly, trying to regain some professional composure. Definitely dinner first. Her smile widened, showing more of those opalescent teeth. Excellent choice, though I should warn you. She moved past him toward the door, her body brushing against his in a way that sent electricity through every nerve. My cooking may be a bit exotic for Earth tastes. Following Naira through her otherworldly home, Randall couldn't shake the feeling he'd stepped into a sci-fi movie. The hallway seemed to respond to their presence, the walls pulsing with soft bioluminescence that followed their movement. The dining area is just ahead, Naira said, her voice carrying that musical quality that made his spine tingle. I've researched appropriate Earth courtship sustenance. The dining room, like everything else in her house, defied conventional architecture. The table appeared to be growing from the floor, its surface rippling like liquid metal. Above it, globes of light danced in complex patterns. Please, be seated, she gestured to what looked like a living chair. The atmosphere adjustments will begin momentarily. Atmosphere adjust, Randall started to ask, but was cut off by a sudden shift in the room's lighting. The ambient glow dimmed to a deep purple, while the floating orbs began pulsing in a rhythm that reminded him distinctly of a heartbeat. Perfect, Naira purred. The house's AI has recognized our courtship intentions and is creating optimal conditions. Before Randall could protest that they weren't actually courting, a small silver sphere zipped into the room, humming what sounded suspiciously like Barry White. Ah, my cleaning unit has activated its entertainment protocols, Naira beamed. It's programmed with traditional mating songs from both our worlds. The robot's humming grew louder, adding what seemed to be a synthesized bass line. Randall watched in horrified fascination as it started doing loop-de-loops in time with the music. Listen, about this courtship thing, he began but stopped short as Naira clapped her hands. The table's surface rippled, and dishes began emerging from its center like submarines surfacing from a mercury sea. I've prepared traditional Earth romance foods, she announced proudly, all carefully selected for their symbolic significance. Randall stared at the spread before him. Every single item was distinctly cylindrical. There were hot dogs, breadsticks, carrots, banana, cucumbers, and what appeared to be a whole uncooked eggplant. You see, Naira explained earnestly, I noticed Earth's fascination with tube-shaped nutrition during my research. Given your profession, I thought it would be especially appropriate. The cleaning robot chose that moment to switch to what sounded like Marvin Gaye's Let's Get It On, complete with robotic backup vocals. Naira, Randall managed, trying to ignore the robot's increasingly enthusiastic performance. I think there's been a cultural misunderstanding about, well, everything. She tilted her head, her floating hair creating mesmerizing patterns in the purple light. Have I prepared the phallic symbols incorrectly? Your internet suggested they were essential to human courtship rituals? Randall choked on air. That's not, I mean, he took a deep breath. Look, on Earth, when someone wants to date, to court, they usually start with getting to know each other. Normal conversation, no special atmosphere, or suggestive food shapes. The house AI apparently interpreted this as feedback, because suddenly the lighting shifted to a clinical bright white, and the temperature dropped 10 degrees. Oh dear, Naira frowned, her skin taking on a deeper emerald hue that Randall was beginning to suspect indicated embarrassment. Computer, restore previous ambiance settings. The lights dimmed again, but now they were cycling through a rainbow of colors. The cleaning robot, apparently confused by the changing mood, started playing what sounded like a mashup of Careless Whisper and the Star Wars theme. Perhaps, Naira suggested, gracefully rising from her chair, we should move to the conversation area. For this normal conversation you mentioned. The living room, when they entered it, was even more surreal than the dining room. The furniture looked like it was made from living coral, pulsing gently with bioluminescent patterns. A holographic display covered one wall, showing what appeared to be alien stock market data interspersed with Earth romance movie scenes. Computer, Naira commanded, activate Earth courtship protocols, basic getting-to-know-you setting. The room immediately filled with the sound of waves crashing on a beach, while holographic rose petals began falling from the ceiling. A voice that sounded like Siri on helium announced, initiating human bonding sequence, releasing appropriate pheromones. No, no pheromones, Randall yelped, but it was too late. The air filled with a scent that reminded him of every Valentine's Day cliché rolled into one. Chocolate, roses, and what might have been Axe body spray. Naira wrinkled her nose. Perhaps my Earth romance database needs updating. She gracefully settled onto what looked like a giant purple mushroom. Tell me, Randall Thompson, what does constitute proper courtship on your world? He carefully sat on what he hoped was a chair, relieved when it didn't try to embrace him. Well, usually people start by talking about themselves, their jobs, their interests, their families. Ah, yes, Naira's eyes lit up literally, glowing like opals. On my world, we also share personal information before mating. For instance, I am currently in my 47th solar cycle, which in Earth terms makes me approximately 25 years old. My genetic lineage includes 3 quantum physicists and a zero-gravity dancer. The cleaning robot, still determined to provide mood music, had switched to what sounded like Al Green being performed by dial-up modems. That's interesting, Randall said carefully. I'm 32 from New Jersey. My dad was also a plumber, taught me everything I know about the trade. Fascinating. Naira leaned forward, her hair floating more energetically. So your skill with pipes is hereditary. No wonder your genetic profile seems so promising. My what now? Oh, did I not mention? I ran a complete genetic scan when you entered the house. Standard procedure for potential mates. Your DNA structure is quite impressive, especially your manual dexterity genes. Randall wasn't sure what was more disturbing, the casual admission of scanning his DNA, or the fact that part of him was flattered. That's not really how we do things here on Earth. We prefer getting to know each other naturally. Natural processes. Naira clapped her hands delightedly. The house AI interpreted this as a command, and suddenly the floor began sprouting what looked like glowing grass. Yes, I've studied Earth's natural mating rituals extensively. Shall we proceed to the Netflix and chill phase? Before Randall could explain what that actually meant, the holographic wall flickered and began playing what appeared to be every romance movie ever made simultaneously, while the temperature rose to what he could only describe as sauna levels. Optimal viewing conditions established, the house AI announced, initiating mood lighting and hormone stabilization protocols. The cleaning robot, reaching new levels of enthusiasm, started performing what looked like a zero-gravity ballet while playing Can't Help Falling in Love on what sounded like a theremin. Naira, Randall said, wiping sweat from his forehead, I think we need to have a serious talk about cultural differences. She nodded solemnly, though her eyes still swirled with colors that made his head spin. Of course. Would you prefer to discuss them before or after we synchronize our biorhythms? The house AI helpfully displayed a diagram showing exactly what biorhythm synchronization entailed. Randall quickly looked away, his face burning. What I'm trying to say is... He paused, distracted by the fact that the glowing grass was now trying to climb up his legs. On Earth, relationships develop slowly. We take time to build emotional connections before anything else. Ah, Naira's face lit up with understanding. You require more emotional stimulation before physical coupling. Computer, activate maximum emotional resonance field. Suddenly, the air filled with what felt like static electricity, and Randall's every emotion seemed to amplify tenfold. The attraction he'd been trying to suppress hit him like a tidal wave. "Is this better?" Naira asked innocently, while the cleaning robot began playing what sounded like a love song, composed entirely of whale sounds and synthesizer solos. "Turn it off!" Randall gasped, his heart racing as the emotional resonance field made every feeling impossibly intense. The attraction, the confusion, the absurd hilarity of the situation. It was all too much. "Computer, deactivate emotional enhancement," Naira commanded, looking concerned. Her skin shifted to a deeper green that pulsed with worry. "Have I caused you distress? Perhaps we should try a different approach to courtship." The house AI apparently took this as a cue to cycle through what seemed to be every dating scenario in its database. The holographic walls flickered rapidly. Paris cafe, moonlit beach, candlelit restaurant, space station observation deck, underwater grotto. "Selecting optimal romantic scenario," the AI announced cheerfully. "Would you prefer Earth Standard or Centaurian Traditional?" The cleaning robot, still determined to help, began projecting a holographic mood board of romantic images while playing what sounded like Beethoven's Fifth, remixed with space whale songs. "Stop!" Randall stood up, accidentally knocking over a floating crystal that had been dispensing some kind of alien aromatherapy. Everything just stopped for a minute. To his surprise, everything actually did stop. The music cut off mid-whale song, the holograms froze, and even the glowing grass retreated. Only Naira's hair continued its hypnotic floating. "I've upset you," she said softly, her voice carrying a musical note of sadness that made his chest tight. "I only wish to honor your Earth customs while maintaining the traditions of my world. Perhaps I have failed at both." Randall felt a surge of guilt. Here she was, trying her best to bridge a literal interplanetary cultural gap, and he was acting like a jerk. "No, you haven't failed. This is just complicated." "Complicated," she repeated, testing the word. "Yes, that seems accurate. On my world, the mating process is much more straightforward. When the quickening begins, we simply select the most compatible partner based on their professional achievements and genetic profile, then proceed with the coupling ritual. And on Earth, we usually start with coffee," Randall said, managing a smile. "Maybe we could try finding a middle ground?" Nara's eyes lit up, literally glowing brighter. "A fusion of our cultures. Computer, prepare Earth coffee with Centaurian enhancement protocols." Before Randall could object, a section of the wall transformed into what looked like a cross between a coffee maker and a small nuclear reactor. It hummed ominously. "Should that be glowing like that?" he asked nervously. "Oh yes, the quantum brewing process always produces a slight temporal distortion," Naira assured him, "though perhaps we should move back a few feet. The last time I tried fusion cuisine, it created a small spatial anomaly." The cleaning robot, sensing potential danger, began playing what sounded like the theme from Mission Impossible while circling the coffee maker protectively. "Maybe we could skip the coffee," Randall suggested quickly. "Just talk?" Without any enhancements or protocols. Nara considered this, her hair swirling thoughtfully. Simple verbal exchange without technological assistance? How charmingly primitive. She smiled, her opalescent teeth catching the light. "Though I should warn you, even without artificial enhancement, my species naturally produces certain attractive pheromones during the quickening phase. As if to demonstrate, a wave of that intoxicating ozone and wildflower scent rolled over him, making his knees weak. "I've noticed," he managed, trying to maintain his professional composure. It wasn't easy when every breath made him increasingly aware of how beautiful she was, even by alien standards. "Perhaps," she suggested, moving closer with that liquid grace that defied physics, "we could discuss why you really came here today." "You called about a plumbing problem," he said automatically, though they both knew that wasn't the whole truth. "Did I?" Her eyes swirled with mischievous colors. "Or did I recognize a compatible mate and utilize your planet's service infrastructure to arrange a meeting?" The cleaning robot, picking up on the romantic tension, began softly playing "The Way You Look Tonight" on what sounded like a crystalline xylophone. That's That's not how our service infrastructure is supposed to work, Randall protested weakly, even as another wave of her pheromones made his head spin. And yet here you are, she pointed out, now close enough that he could see the subtle patterns shifting beneath her jade skin. In my home during my quickening, with all your impressive tools. The house AI helpfully displayed a split-screen comparison of plumbing tools and their apparent Centaurian courtship equivalents. Randall quickly looked away, his face burning. Biological compatibility, scan complete, the AI announced suddenly. Results indicate 98.7% hormonal synchronization potential. Recommend immediate. Computer, mute, Naira commanded, her skin flushing a deeper green. My apologies. The AI can be rather enthusiastic about its matchmaking protocols. The cleaning robot, apparently determined to make up for the AI's silenced announcement, began performing an interpretive dance that looked suspiciously like a mechanical reproduction of the single lady's choreography. Look, Randall said, trying to focus despite the robot's performance and the increasingly distracting scent of Naira's pheromones. Maybe we should start over. Hi, I'm Randall Thompson. I'm a plumber from New Jersey who definitely didn't expect to be in an alien courtship ritual today. Naira's laugh was like wind chimes in a summer breeze. And I'm Naira Zax, 427 Beta, quantum physicist and cultural exchange pioneer, who absolutely did plan this courtship ritual today. She moved even closer, her hair tendrils almost brushing his face. Would you like to know why I chose you? Because I had good Yelp reviews. He managed, his heart racing as one of her hair tendrils actually did brush his cheek, sending a tiny electric shock through his skin. Because, she said, her voice dropping to a hypnotic purr, of all the service providers I analyzed, you showed the most fascinating combination of traits. Physical capability. Her eyes traced over his arms. Technical expertise. They dropped to his tool belt, and something your Earth reviews called old-fashioned reliability. The cleaning robot, still dancing, had switched to what sounded like, "Let's get physical," performed by a chorus of musical Tesla coils. That's about my plumbing work," Randall protested, though his conviction was weakening by the second. "Just regular pipe maintenance and repair." "Is it?" Naira's eyes swirled with colors he had no names for. "On my world, the ability to understand and manipulate complex systems of flow and pressure is considered highly attractive. And your hands." She reached for his hand, her fingers sending little sparks of electricity through his skin where they touched. Such strong hands used to working with precision tools? The house AI, despite being muted, managed to convey its approval by adjusting the lighting to a pulsing pattern that matched their heartbeats. The holographic display now showed what appeared to be a documentary about Earth romance rituals, spliced with Centaurian mating customs. The resulting mashup looked like The Bachelor meets Close Encounters of the Third Kind. "This is crazy," Randall muttered, though he hadn't pulled his hand away from hers. "I came here to fix pipes." "Did you?" Naira's thumb traced patterns on his palm that left trails of tingling sensation. "Or did you come here because something in my voice suggested a more interesting possibility?" The cleaning robot, reaching new heights of romantic enthusiasm, began spraying what looked like glowing bubbles while playing "Can't Fight This Feeling" on what sounded like an electric harp. Randall started to protest, but the words died in his throat as Naira's other hand came to rest on his chest, right over his thundering heart. "Your cardiovascular response suggests strong attraction," she observed, her voice taking on a scientific tone that somehow made the situation even more surreal. "And your pupils are dilated 47% beyond normal parameters. These are courtship indicators in humans, yes?" "That's not, I mean," he swallowed hard. "It's not that simple." "Why not?" Her head tilted in that distinctly alien way. "I find you physically and intellectually attractive. You display clear physiological signs of reciprocal interest. My quickening is in optimal phase, and your genetic profile suggests highly compatible offspring." "Whoa!" Randall finally managed to step back, though even that small distance from her felt like fighting a magnetic pull. "Offspring? We haven't even had dinner yet." The house AI, still muted but eager to help, immediately projected a holographic menu of fertility-enhancing foods from both Earth and Centauri. The cleaning robot, picking up on the theme, began playing what sounded like a lullaby mixed with space jazz. "Ah yes, Earth courtship requires multiple shared meals before reproduction is discussed." Nara nodded sagely. "Though I must point out that my quickening phase only lasts another 47 Earth hours, and the alignment of our biological rhythms is currently optimal for—" "Computer, display current Earth time," Randall interrupted desperately. The AI obliged, projecting 7:43 p.m. in floating holographic numbers. Had he really only been here for 3 hours? It felt like he'd stepped into another dimension. "You have somewhere else to be?" Naira asked. And there was something in her tone, a hint of vulnerability beneath the alien confidence, that made his chest tight. "No," he admitted, "but this is a lot to process. On Earth, we usually take time to get to know each other before discussing biological rhythms." "Then let us know each other," she suggested, her eyes swirling with what might have been hope. "Tell me about Earth plumbing. I will tell you about Centaurian quantum physics. Perhaps we can find common ground between your pipes and my particles." "You know what?" Randall found himself saying, surprising both of them. "Why not? Let's talk physics and plumbing." The house AI, still eager to help, dimmed the lights to what it presumably thought was intellectual discussion levels and projected a holographic diagram combining Earth's water systems with what appeared to be quantum field equations. The cleaning robot, sensing the mood shift, switched to playing what sounded like classical music remixed with the sounds of running water. "Excellent!" Naira's entire being seemed to light up, her skin glowing brighter with enthusiasm. "You see, the principles of quantum tunneling aren't so different from your Earth plumbing. Both deal with the movement of particles through defined pathways." As she spoke, gesturing animatedly with those graceful green hands, Randall found himself captivated, not just by her otherworldly beauty, but by the way her eyes sparkled when she explained complex theories, the way her hair moved in patterns that seemed to illustrate her points, the genuine passion in her voice. "And that's why multi-dimensional pipe systems could revolutionize Earth's water management," she concluded, looking at him expectantly. "That's actually fascinating," Randall admitted, "though I think most of my customers would freak out if their toilets started accessing other dimensions." Her laugh was like crystal wind chimes. "Perhaps we should start smaller. Tell me about your work. What draws you to the manipulation of Earth's water systems?" And somehow, sitting there in her impossible house with its helpful AI and overenthusiastic cleaning robot, Randall found himself opening up about everything. His father's legacy, his pride in fixing things, the satisfaction of solving problems and helping people. "It's not glamorous," he finished, "but it's honest work, important work. On my world," Naira said softly, "we have a saying, the flow of water mirrors the flow of life itself. Your work isn't just important, it's essential to the very fabric of civilization." The house AI, apparently moved by this exchange, began playing what sounded like a love song composed of flowing water and quantum harmonics. "You really think that?" Randall asked, surprised by how much her understanding meant to him. "I do." She moved closer, her scent wrapping around him like an electric storm. "Just as I think there's more between us than a simple misunderstanding about service calls." "Did you just break your sink on purpose?" Randall asked, torn between professional outrage and amusement. "Technically, I just altered its space-time configuration," Nera replied innocently. "But yes, I would very much like to watch you work. For purely professional reasons, of course." The sink gave another gurgle, this one somehow managing to sound flirtatious. "Quantum state destabilization." "Detected," the house AI announced cheerfully. "Recommended solution? Immediate maintenance by qualified Earthling technician." The cleaning robot zoomed over to Randall's tool belt and began dramatically spotlighting each instrument while playing what sounded like a mechanic's theme song. "You know," Randall said, reaching for his wrench with a smile he couldn't quite suppress, "most women just ask for my number. And most men don't need quantum physics to see how special they are," Nera countered, moving to watch him work. Her presence behind him was like standing near a lightning storm, all electricity and barely contained energy. As he bent to examine the sink, he could feel her eyes on him, studying every movement. The house AI helpfully provided floating holographic diagrams of both Earth plumbing and Centaurian quantum mechanics, creating a bizarre but oddly beautiful light show around them. "Your technique is fascinating," Naira murmured, leaning closer. "The way you manipulate physical space, it's almost like watching a quantum engineer at work." "Just basic plumbing," Randall said modestly, though her praise sent warmth through his chest. "Though I have to admit, this is the first time I've worked on a sink that exists in multiple dimensions." "Only 3 at the moment," she assured him. "I didn't want to overwhelm you on our first date." He looked up at her, struck by the casual way she defined what this was. "Is that what this is? A date?" "Well," her eyes swirled with those impossible colors, "you are in my house demonstrating your skills, while my technology provides romantic ambiance. On my world, this would definitely qualify as courtship." As if on cue, the cleaning robot began a slow, swaying dance while playing "Fly Me to the Moon" on what sounded like a combination of wind chimes and stellar harmonics. "You know what?" Randall straightened up, making a decision. "You're right. This is a date. Probably the strangest first date in New Jersey history, but definitely a date." Naira's smile lit up the room, literally as her bioluminescence pulsed with joy. "Then perhaps we should make it official?" She stepped closer, her scent making his head spin. "On my world, first dates traditionally end with a quantum alignment of—" "How about we start with a kiss?" Randall suggested quickly, before she could suggest anything involving multiple dimensions. The house AI dimmed the lights to perfection, while the cleaning robot switched to a soft instrumental version of "Kiss the Girl" from The Little Mermaid. "A kiss," Naira repeated thoughtfully. "Yes, I've studied this Earth custom, though I should warn you, my species' biochemistry can be quite intense." "I think I can handle," Randall started to say, but then she was kissing him and intense didn't begin to cover it. It was like being struck by lightning and falling into a warm ocean at the same time. Every nerve ending came alive with tiny electric sparks, and the world seemed to shift slightly sideways into another dimension. The sink, apparently caught up in the moment, shot a geyser of rainbow-colored water into the air. The cleaning robot spun in delighted circles, playing what sounded like every love song ever written simultaneously, while the house AI projected a shower of holographic hearts that pulsed in time with their racing heartbeats. When they finally pulled apart, Randall had to grip the sink for support. "That was quantum entanglement," Naira finished, her skin glowing brighter than ever. "Our particles are now permanently linked." Looking at Naira now, Randall finally admitted to himself what he'd known since that first phone call. He'd been drawn to her from the start. Her voice had awakened something in him, and seeing her, all jade-skinned glory and floating hair, had only confirmed what his racing heart already knew. He'd hidden behind professionalism and plumbing protocols, but who was he kidding? "You're right," he said, voice rougher than he intended. "This was never about pipes." The cleaning robot let out what sounded suspiciously like a mechanical squeal of delight and began playing "At Last" on its crystalline synthesizer. "Finally, he admits it." Naira's smile was radiant. "I was wondering how long you'd maintain your admirably professional facade, though your elevated heart rate and dilated pupils gave you away hours ago." "Was I that obvious?" Randall felt his face heat up. "To someone trained in quantum observation? Yes." She moved closer, her hair tendrils reaching for him like they had a mind of their own. "Every time I got close, your electromagnetic field would spike dramatically." Very flattering, by the way. The house AI, reading the room perfectly for once, adjusted the lighting to a soft, pulsing glow that matched their synchronized heartbeats. "Look," Randall said, fighting the urge to close the remaining distance between them. "I've been trying to be professional because this is all so new. I mean, you're literally from another planet, and I'm just a plumber from Jersey." "A plumber," Naira corrected, "who didn't run away when an alien propositioned him, who stayed to understand a different culture, who looks at me like I'm more than just my species." Her hand found his again, those familiar electric tingles shooting up his arm. "Do you know how rare that is?" The cleaning robot, overcome with emotion, began spinning in circles while playing what sounded like Can't Help Falling in Love, mixed with the harmonics of distant stars. I still think we should take this slow, Randall managed, though his resolve was weakening by the second. Get to know each other properly. Maybe actually fix something in this house. Nara's eyes swirled with mischief. Well, now that you mention it, she waved her hand and suddenly the pristine sink let out an ominous gurgle. I might have temporarily adjusted its quantum state, for authenticity. Did you just break your sink on purpose? Randall asked, torn between professional outrage and amusement. Technically, I just altered its space-time configuration, Naira replied innocently. But yes, I would very much like to watch you work. For purely professional reasons, of course. The sink gave another gurgle, this one somehow managing to sound flirtatious. Quantum state destabilization detected, the house AI announced cheerfully. Recommended solution, immediate maintenance by qualified Earthling technician. The cleaning robot zoomed over to Randall's tool belt and began dramatically spotlighting each instrument while playing what sounded like a mechanic's theme song. Randall said, reaching for his wrench with a smile he couldn't quite suppress. Most women just ask for my number. And most men don't need quantum physics to see how special they are, Naira countered, moving to watch him work. Her presence behind him was like standing near a lightning storm, all electricity and barely contained energy. As he bent to examine the sink, he could feel her eyes on him, studying every movement. The house AI helpfully provided floating holographic diagrams of both Earth plumbing and Centaurian quantum mechanics, creating a bizarre but oddly beautiful light show around them. Your technique is fascinating, Naira murmured, leaning closer. The way you manipulate physical space. It's almost like watching a quantum engineer at work. Just basic plumbing, Randall said modestly, though her praise sent warmth through his chest. Though I have to admit, this is the first time I've worked on a sink that exists in multiple dimensions. Only 3 at the moment, she assured him. I didn't want to overwhelm you on our first date. He looked up at her, struck by the casual way she'd defined what this was. Is that what this is? A date? Well, her eyes swirled with those impossible colors. You are in my house demonstrating your skills, while my technology provides romantic ambiance. On my world, this would definitely qualify as courtship. As if on cue, the cleaning robot began a slow swaying dance while playing Fly Me to the Moon on what sounded like a combination of wind chimes and stellar harmonics. You know what? Randall straightened up, making a decision. You're right. This is a date. Probably the strangest first date in New Jersey history, but definitely a date. Nara's smile lit up the room, literally as her bioluminescence pulsed with joy. Then perhaps we should make it official. She stepped closer, her scent making his head spin. On my world, first dates traditionally end with a quantum alignment of, how about we start with a kiss? Randall suggested quickly, before she could suggest anything involving multiple dimensions. The house AI dimmed the lights to perfection, while the cleaning robot switched to a soft instrumental version of Kiss the Girl from The Little Mermaid. A kiss, Naira repeated thoughtfully. Yes, I've studied this Earth custom, though I should warn you, my species' biochemistry can be quite intense. I think I can handle, Randall started to say, but then she was kissing him, and intense didn't begin to cover it. It was like being struck by lightning and falling into a warm ocean at the same time. Every nerve ending came alive with tiny electric sparks, and the world seemed to shift slightly sideways into another dimension. The sink, apparently caught up in the moment, shot a geyser of rainbow-colored water into the air. The cleaning robot spun in delighted circles, playing what sounded like every love song ever written simultaneously, while the house AI projected a shower of holographic hearts that pulsed in time with their racing heartbeats. When they finally pulled apart, Randall had to grip the sink for support. That was quantum entanglement, Naira finished, her skin glowing brighter than ever. Our particles are now permanently linked. Wait, Randall said, still tingling from the kiss. What do you mean permanently linked? Naira's expression turned serious, though her skin still pulsed with a soft glow. The quickening isn't just about physical attraction, Randall. On my world, it's a time when we're most attuned to finding our true life partner. Our, what's your Earth word, soulmate? The house AI dimmed the lights to a soft, intimate glow, while the cleaning robot played a gentle melody that sounded like starlight converted to sound. When my people kiss during the quickening, it creates a genuine quantum bond, a connection that transcends normal space-time. She touched his chest, right over his heart. Can't you feel it? And he could. Beyond the lingering electricity of the kiss, there was something else, a warmth, a resonance, like finding a frequency he'd been searching for his whole life without knowing it. That's intense, he managed. Too intense. For the first time, real uncertainty crossed her features. Before he could answer, they were interrupted by a knock at the door, then another, and another. Multiple human males detected in proximity, the house AI announced, all carrying maintenance equipment. Randall rushed to the window. Outside, a line of plumbers was forming, at least 5 vans from different companies parked along the street, their drivers looking dazed and love-struck. "Oh dear," Naira said, her skin flushing a deeper green. "I may have forgotten to mention that during the quickening, my pheromones can affect a rather wide radius. You're telling me every plumber in New Jersey is being drawn here?" "Only the compatible ones," she assured him, which wasn't exactly reassuring, though I suppose I should adjust my biochemical output now that I've found my preferred mate. The word mate made his heart skip, which the house AI helpfully displayed as a holographic heartbeat pattern. "Recommended action," the AI suggested, "territorial display by chosen mate to discourage competitors." The cleaning robot immediately began playing Eye of the Tiger while projecting holographic sparkles around Randall. "Or," he suggested, "we could just tell them you've already chosen a plumber." "Better yet," Naira's eyes swirled with mischief, "we could give them something to fix." She waved her hand and suddenly every pipe in the house began playing music, literal water music, creating a symphony of gurgles, splashes, and flows. "Did you just quantum hack all your plumbing?" "Perhaps," she smiled innocently. "Now they'll all have actual work to do, and my pheromones will fade before they finish." Randall couldn't help but laugh. "You're incredible. You know that." "I believe the Earth phrase is out of this world." She pulled him close again, sending little electric shocks through his system. "But speaking of plumbing, my sink still needs fixing." "I thought that was just an excuse to get me here." "Oh, it was," she admitted, "but now I actually want to watch you work. There's something very attractive about a man who knows his way around a quantum-enhanced pipe system." Outside, the crowd of plumbers had begun comparing tools and discussing optimal pipe-fixing strategies. The cleaning robot was now doing victory laps around Randall and Naira while playing We Are the Champions. "You realize," Randall said, pulling out his wrench with a flourish, "that this is going to make my reputation in the New Jersey plumbing community very interesting." "Good," Naira purred, her hair floating in pleased patterns, "because I plan to keep you very, very busy, fixing things." The house AI dimmed the lights to a romantic glow, while the sink let out what could only be described as a hopeful gurgle. And as Randall bent to work on the deliberately broken sink, with his alien girlfriend watching appreciatively and a small army of love-struck plumbers outside, he couldn't help but smile. Life was about to get a lot more interesting in New Jersey. 2 weeks later, Randall's apartment looked like a collision between Home Depot and a sci-fi movie set. Naira's quantum-enhanced furniture kept trying to merge with his standard Earth decor, creating some interesting hybrid pieces. His coffee table now occasionally floated, and the TV picked up signals from 3 different galaxies. "Are you sure about this?" he asked, watching as the cleaning robot attempted to organize their combined tool collections. It had taken to sorting them by both function and quantum resonance, creating elaborate floating displays. "About moving in together?" Naira looked up from where she was programming the kitchen appliances to handle both Earth and Centaurian cuisine. "Or about the fact that your microwave can now heat food in multiple dimensions simultaneously?" "Both?" She glided over to him, her jade skin glowing with happiness. "I've never been more sure about anything. Though I should warn you, I may have made some minor adjustments to the plumbing." "What kind of adjustments?" Randall asked suspiciously. As if in answer, The pipes throughout the apartment began humming their favorite love song, the one the cleaning robot had played during their first kiss. Just some quantum harmonics, she said innocently, and maybe a small interdimensional water recycling system, and possibly a miniature AI to monitor flow rates. You know normal Earth plumbing doesn't sing, right? Boring, she declared, wrapping her arms around his neck. The familiar electric tingle of her touch still made his heart race. Besides, you love a challenge. True, he admitted, pulling her closer. Though I have to ask, did you really need to teach the cleaning robot to play romantic music every time we kiss? The robot in question perked up at the word kiss and immediately began playing its signature mix of Earth love songs and stellar harmonics. It also started its new favorite routine, creating a shower of glowing water droplets that hung in the air around them like suspended stars. I thought it added ambiance, Naira said, her eyes swirling with those impossible colors that never failed to mesmerize him. Would you prefer it played your Earth classical music? Or perhaps some quantum wave frequencies? Instead of answering, Randall kissed her. The feeling was still as intense as the first time. Electricity and warmth in that deep quantum connection that made everything else fade away. The cleaning robot spun in delighted circles, its water display creating rainbow patterns in the air. When they finally pulled apart, both slightly breathless and glowing, him metaphorically, her literally, Randall smiled. You know what? I wouldn't change a thing. Good, Nira said, her hair floating in pleased patterns, because I have some ideas about upgrading the shower next. And as the cleaning robot serenaded them with its interstellar love songs, while quantum-enhanced water droplets danced around them like tiny stars, Randall knew his life would never be normal again. But with a girlfriend who could break the laws of physics just to watch him fix things, who needed normal? Dear listeners, thank you for joining us on this charming journey through the most unusual service call in New Jersey's history. Randall and Naira's story shows us that love truly knows no boundaries, not even interplanetary ones. Their tale reminds us that sometimes the most extraordinary connections can begin with something as mundane as a plumbing emergency, and that being open to new experiences can lead to magical possibilities. But perhaps this is just the beginning. What new adventures await our unconventional couple? Would you like to discover how Randall explains his green-skinned girlfriend to his traditional Italian family? What happens when Naira decides to help upgrade the entire town's plumbing system with quantum technology? Their first Christmas together, where Naira's attempt to understand Earth holidays leads to some interdimensional mistletoe incidents? The chaos that ensues when Naira's parents decide to visit Earth to meet their daughter's chosen maintenance specialist? If you enjoyed this tale of interstellar romance and quantum plumbing, let me know if you'd like to explore more stories about Randall and Naira's life together. After all, when you're dealing with love across the cosmos, anything is possible. What other situations would you like to see our favorite plumber and his quantum physicist girlfriend navigate? Share your thoughts and maybe we'll explore more of their story together. Remember, sometimes the best things in life come from unexpected service calls. Would you like to join Randall and Naira for more adventures in their quantum-enhanced slice of New Jersey?